So if they can't make it, we try to encourage them that that is not the end of the road. Because if they are in this world, they are here for a purpose. So I'm gonna cry if I talk about this. And we brought some food out and we had kids coming and they told us stories. And I think as Christians, we should be out there in the world shining for Christ than taking the backstage. And I grew up a very hard life because my mom tried to look after 10 children altogether. And that was a lot of hard work for her. I had to walk to school and I told myself, I've got to succeed. When I fell pregnant with the first boy, I prayed and I said, Lord, give me a boy and I'll give him back to you. My name is Elizabeth Kimisopa. I'm married to Bire, who is my husband. He's from Eastern Islands and I'm from Chimbu. We've been married for the last 35 years now. We've got 4 children, 2 adopted children and 1 granddaughter. I've been a Seventh-day Adventist for the last 31 years.
Okay. Yeah. And you live in Goroka now?
Yes, I live in Goroka.
And what do you do here in Goroka?
In Goroka, we are in business. We run a used clothing business where we import clothing from Australia mainly, and we retail here in Papua New Guinea, in Goroka and some areas of Papua New Guinea as well.
Okay. And you're a member of the Kamu Church. Can you tell me a little bit about the story of Kamu Church from COVID through to now?
Prior to COVID, Kamu Church is a big church, membership of 400 plus at that time. We have a lot of programs going on in the church as well. And one of the programs we started in Kamu Church, which the church started and we had it going for a number of years. We had a youth program called PNG for Christ. And that's where we get all the young kids aged between 13 to 26 to register and attend the program. And it goes on for a week. And it's normally during the holiday, the Christmas holidays. So we get speakers within the country, reputable speakers, people who are respected in the community, who come from stable homes and who are God-fearing people to come and speak to our young kids and to mentor them. And we bring them in. We also have a book club during the week program where we buy a book and we encourage kids to read as many books as they can. But more importantly, we run the program every Christmas for 1 week just to tell kids about some of the things which in Papua New Guinea parents find it difficult to talk to them about. Sex is one of them, relationship is one of them, having to manage your money is one of them, getting their priorities right is one of them, because the aim of the program is to have elders, deacon, church leaders in the church who are doctors, lawyers, accountants, teachers, who come back and they're holding those responsible jobs in the church and mentor the church and take the church forward. So we've been doing that prior to COVID. After COVID, my husband and I left the church because during the COVID period, we had our own little groups where we were worshiping from. So we had to go to the village to go to church. So we went to our village to go to church every Sabbath. And we've been going this up until now. And because the church is small, at the same time, we've got a few neighboring villages where we want to reach out to. And we see that we need to be in the village to help the church people to do that. Not only that, but also to help in the church growth and church building for our church in the village.
Okay. And as you reach out into these other communities, how are you doing that? Are you reaching out with health or with life skills or through the young people? What is your outreach method?
I think my husband and I are more into mentoring young kids. So we are reaching out through life skills and teaching kids, especially who are dropping out of grade 6, grade 8, not to give up hope, and just to teach them and encourage them that there are ways where they can upgrade their marks and continue with their education. And also to teach them that they can do other things apart from education, because with the education system in Papua New Guinea, there's very limited space and institutions too. So they're competing with rest of Papua New Guinea. So if they can't make it, we try to encourage them that that is not the end of the road. Because if they're in this world, they're here for a purpose. And if they remain in God, obviously God wouldn't bring them into the world without a purpose, and they can find their purpose in God. So we try to encourage them in that way, and also teach them to manage their money, teach them that they can go and upgrade their marks, teach them to go to technical colleges. And that's where we are with our people back home in the village.
So would it be accurate for me to say that you love young people?
Yes, we do. We do. I think God has created us all to be the head and not the tail, and to be game changers. And knowing God makes a lot of difference in our life. And I think as Christians, we should be out there in the world shining for Christ than taking the backstage. So we like mentoring kids and telling them, because I grew up from a village where my father died when I was in grade 7.
Okay.
And I grew up a very hard life because my mom tried to look after 10 children altogether. And that was a lot of hard work for her. I had to walk to school, and I told myself, I've got to succeed. And education was the way forward for me. So that's what we think, that all kids need to be encouraged, because most of the kids have parents who are not educated. They're villages, and they can see beyond their education level. So we try to teach them and show them the way. And we tell them that in the world it's extremely difficult, but when you have Christ in your life, when God is first in everything that you do, doors will be open for you. And don't ever think that you are nobody, because you are somebody. If God can come and die for you, if Jesus can come and die for you, you are obviously worthy. And there'll be opportunities for you. So we try to encourage kids in that way, because we don't want to see kids running around and resorting to other means of living, and then start wasting their life and living a life which they shouldn't be living. So I think that's the passion my husband and I have in encouraging young people.
And do you have some impact stories, like some success stories with the young people who have been able to turn their life around and go in a good direction?
We've sponsored about, I think, 4 or 5 kids who have gone to Omara School of Ministry.
Yeah.
And they've gone on to Sonoma, and they're pastors now and ministers. Some have gone back to PAU to do their degree in theology. Pastor Josiah, who is currently doing his PhD in USA now, was one of the students we sponsored in PAU when he went. So we try to be involved with the church by looking at students who want to go back to becoming pastors and ministers. So that's one of the story. The other story is about a young girl from a village called Okapa here in Goroka. And I think that's where Linda comes from. I don't know whether you've interviewed Linda already or not.
Yeah.
That's the lady who's sitting.
Past Honolulu?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we went there about 15 years ago. We just went there for a Sabbath worship with them, and we took some lunch, and we went to our school at Omara Primary School. Yeah. We went there, and we were trying to feed the kids. So I'm gonna cry if I talk about this. And we brought some food out, and we had kids coming, and they told us stories. Like some of them had to leave their village and come and stay at the school. And early as 4 o'clock in the morning, they had to get up, have their worship, and go and work in the garden to grow sweet potatoes to feed themselves. And there were kids as young as 8, 9, and 10. So they came and told their stories, and we were really touched by their story. So my husband and I came back, and we said, we'll sponsor one student from that school to go all the way to university, wherever it may take them. That was the commitment we made.
Okay.
And there was a student we want to sponsor, but the headmaster who was there came to us and said, no, I'm going to give you a student who is bright and who has a future. And I said, okay. And we agreed to him. So he gave us a young girl. So we sponsored her. She went to Bena High School. She went to Kabufa, and she went to Sonoma, and she took up education. And she comes from a home where her mom's got 7 kids, and she didn't know her dad. She knows she's got siblings, but she didn't know her dad. So we looked after her, and she was like our daughter. She'd come and stay with us at home. We'd provide for her allowance. And we looked after her all the way. She graduated, she came back, and she went to Bena, and she was teaching at Bena for a while. And it took her a while before she got a paycheck. And when she got a paycheck, she came and she said she wanted to see me. So she took some of her relatives from the village. They came back to say thank you. And I said, no, that's part of our ministry. You go and help your people from your village. So she's teaching now. She's gone into business as well. She's gone back to her village now. And she's in the ministry and she's supporting people in the village. So that's one story I'm happy about, to touch someone's life. And that person has succeeded in life and is doing what I would have wanted her to do. And I'm really happy about.
Yeah, praise
So
God.
that's one of the story. I think there's so many other stories we have to tell.
Yeah.
But I don't think time would permit.
That's okay. But it's beautiful to see that you have been blessed by God. You have passed those blessings on. And now those who receive the blessings are now passing the blessings on as well to other people. And that's the Christian walk, isn't it?
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And is there anything else that you would like to share with us from a stewardship point of view, or from God's faithfulness, or anything you want to share?
I think knowing, like, I'm happy that I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm also happy that walking with God has made a lot of difference in our life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Even if someone promised me the world, I'd say no. I'd say no to the world and say yes to Jesus. Because I think He gives us purpose, and we are more grounded in life, in our home, in our marriage, with our children. And we go through life with all its problems. But when we have Jesus, there's this calm that you have and that peace that you have. And I could never change it for the world. I'd rather have Jesus than the world. And I love the ministry work. I love the ministry work. I've got 4 children, biological children, 2 girls who were born ahead of me, and I've got 2 boys. When I fell pregnant with the first boy, I prayed and I said, Lord, give me a boy and I'll give him back to you. I want him to be a pastor. And that was the only prayer I did. And after that, I said thank you until I delivered him.
Okay.
He's a big kid now. He's 25. He's not in the church, but I know he will be in the church because my God is bigger than him. And he will be in the church. And one day he'll be preaching. I tell him all the time, you're a pastor, You'll be preaching one day. And my second born, I waited for 5 years before I had him. And I prayed. After 2 years, I said, Lord, it's okay. I haven't changed my mind about this one. He is still yours. You don't have to give me a second born. 5 years later, I fell pregnant. I said, thank you. This is an offering to you. The first one is a tithe. This one is an offering to you. And these are some of the blessings I've seen in God's life. And I like it. And I love it. I love the Lord. I love doing ministry for Him. I cannot be up on the pulpit preaching, but I want to think that when we go to heaven, I want God to say, come here, this is all your work. Come and see all your work. So I love going around with pastors if they're going anywhere, if they're inviting us. Like last year we went to Bougainville Mission. And I came back really touched with that mission. And my life has never been the same since we came back. And I would love to go back to Bougainville, because I think the people there are really on fire for the Lord. They're serving God, and everything they have, they're giving it to the Lord. I'm on a WhatsApp group with them, so every time, everything that's happening, they post it on that group, and I see it. And, I believe that God is moving and is touching people, not only in Bougainville, but right throughout Papua New Guinea. A lot has happened in this country, but there are men and women who love God. And who are still faithful to God, no matter what. And I think that's the spirit we all should have in serving God and in loving God. God has given us everything in Jesus. And all we need is Him. And when we have Him, we have everything. And we should go out with everything that God has given us to serve Him.
Amen. Can you tell me about your time in Bougainville? What did you do there? Why did you go?
My husband and I went because they want us to talk to people who are in the business, in the small, medium enterprises. So we went to speak on that, and they picked a group of people to go over, so we went. So we spoke to young and upcoming business people in Bougainville and the business that they're doing. And basically the message my husband and I told them is that God must be first in everything we do. Not only do you pay your salary and wages, tithe on your salary and wages, but you must also pay tithe on the business that you run. Because everything starts with God and it finishes with God. It doesn't matter the economic condition that you go through. It doesn't matter what you go through. Sometimes paying tithe is your act of worship to God. Paying tithe is because God says it in His Word, and we have to obey God and do it. Not because we want something in return. He's given us everything already through Jesus. But we have to support the ministry in what we do, and paying tithe, not only through your salary and wages, but you have to pay through your business as well. Pay tax to the government too. You have to pay your GST, you have to pay your company tax, and if you're employing people over a certain amount of people in your company, you have to pay the nest fund or the savings to the respective bodies in the country. You have to pay. That is your requirement, because if you don't do that, how can you go to church and worship God? Because God says, pay to Caesar what is Caesar's. So that's how we honor God. And when we do that, God will honor us. Not so much in business, but the fact that we are alive, that's a blessing from God. The fact that our marriage is intact, that's a blessing from God. The fact that our children are okay, that's a blessing from God. Now, if God wants to give us anything apart from that, that's His discretion. But our act is to support Him and support the ministry. We cannot be preaching, but our tithe can do the job, can take the pastors to areas we can go to. Our offering as well too. Not only tithe, but we have to give our offering as well to the church. So we find it a joy. My husband and I find it a joy to be part of the mission through that way. So that was the message we relate to the people in Bougainville. The mission went there, did a lot of ministry work, and I'm hoping the mission would do a second trip, because I'd love to go back to Bougainville. And any other mission for that matter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.